My behavior, completely not normal. This is the real truth about childhood trauma. It impacts our mind, body, and spirit long after the fact. It causes emotional and psychological problems, it causes behavioral problems, and it causes physical challenges too. And we're going to dive into the spiritual side of this as well. So the emotional, psychological problems that are impacted by childhood trauma is their anxiety, depression, PTSD. And so we have these lingering emotional, psychological things clinging on to us because of what we experienced in childhood. And those are the responses that we developed because of those experiences. So it, caused us to have this always feeling of like this little bit of feeling of anxiety or this depression. There was always this lingering sadness because of what we were experiencing. And then PTSD is a whole nother ball of wax all on its own. And so it also can cause us to have a hard time regulating our emotions. And so we can be really like a loose cannon when we are upset, and it doesn't take much to send us off the edge. And then when we do go off the edge, we really just fly off the handle. I can remember there was this one time where I had not done any healing work yet. I didn't even know I needed to do healing work. And this situation that happened with my daughter haunts me to this day because I thought, oh my gosh. First of all, I was embarrassed because I lost my shit in front of another parent. But then I was also mortified because I was like, what did I just do to my child? So here's what happened. My daughter was in dance when she was little, and she had a dance friend come over for a play date. And my daughter was being such a brat, and she was refusing to share. That was embarrassing because I raised my daughter to share her toys with others. She had a little sister, so she has to know how to share. And she was just being such a witch to this little girl. And that was so embarrassing because I thought, oh my gosh, what does this mom think of me and my child? And how is the other little girl feeling? And so I said multiple times, Lily, please share, please be a nice friend. And she wasn't listening. And so I spun her around on the floor and I kind of pushed her up against the wall and I screamed at her. And the look on her face was pure terror. So then I felt even worse than I already did because I just traumatized my child. Looking back on it in the moment, of course she didn't want to share. She was a 3-year-old little girl who didn't want some other little girl touching her Barbies. Completely normal behavior. My behavior, completely not normal. So I just apologized to that mom for her behavior and just kind of skirted the whole situation and just tried to keep the play date moving on. And so that was before my healing journey. And I can't say that my emotional regulation got better early on in the healing journey either because I hadn't done the work. Oftentimes we also have low self-esteem because we're made to believe that we aren't good enough, that we're not worthy. And even if someone else hasn't given us that message, we create that message for ourselves because of the things that we experience at the hands of others. And so there's also behavioral challenges that come into play that affect the mind, body, and spirit from unhealed childhood trauma, and that's substance abuse and addiction. And these are the go-to methods really to cope with what the pain, the lingering pain that's there, the limiting beliefs, the lack mindset, the victim mentality. It's really an escape to get out of that negative space and into something that feels much better. But those become something that we depend on. And so while they feel like a good idea in the moment, they're really not. They're not serving coping strategies at all. And it doesn't even have to be drugs and alcohol. It can be food, it can be sex, it can be shopping. Those are all addictions that help us create the feelings that we want within ourselves that we feel are missing. And also, relationship challenges are really common in adults who have unhealed childhood trauma. They pick relationships that are incredibly unhealthy and that mirror the relationships they had in their childhood because they think that this person will be the person that saves them. But really that person is very much like the person in their childhood that was dysfunctional, abusive, neglectful. And so it's really not creating the relationship that they're looking for. Or they find a person who's the polar opposite of the adult that they had in their life and childhood, but they're so afraid of being abandoned, abused, lied to, manipulated, that they create problems in the relationship to prevent that from happening. And so it's a self-sabotage kind of situation. So relationships can be really challenging, not just with other adults, but at work, with family members, with children, with their own children. And so that also leads to trust issues. And like I mentioned earlier, it goes back to the feeling of being abandoned, being manipulated, the person not following through on what they said they were going to follow through on. And so relationship dynamics are very, very challenging for an adult with unhealed childhood trauma. Then there's also the physical aspect of it. So people with childhood trauma tend to have chronic conditions such as diabetes, heart problems, and that's because their body has been exposed to the hormones cortisol and adrenaline for so much of their life that it's really taxed their system to capacity. And that's not good for your overall physical well-being. Your body isn't meant to live in that state all the time. And then also because of that, they tend to have weakened immune systems because their body is basically being hypervigilant to keep them safe. And so is their mind. And so it creates these physical conditions that are really almost unbearable to deal with. And then that, it's like a cycle that also then fosters the low self-esteem, the anxiety, the depression, the substance abuse and addiction. And so really when we are dealing with these emotional and psychological challenges, these behavior challenges, these physical conditions, it really does disconnect us from our mind, body, and our spirit. We stop trusting our intuition. We stop listening to that gut response that we all naturally have. We discredit ourselves for it and think, oh no, that's not right, because we've been told before for so long that it's not right to listen to, and that whatever that message was that we got, it was the wrong message. And we stay stuck in our minds. We are in this overanalyzing loop, this constant state of thinking about things, analyzing things, wishing things would be different or better or not have happened. And so again, it's this taxing thing, and we lose sight of what we're feeling in our body because we're so numbed to all of this, because it's exhausting to deal with these things on a continuous basis. So if you are new to your healing journey and you aren't really sure where to turn, or you've been at it for a little bit, but you feel like you're stuck, things are stagnant, and you're looking to get more momentum, to start making some lasting changes, you are in the right place. I'm so excited and thankful that you found this channel, because these videos are going to give you insight, tools, and understanding on how to keep moving forward, even when you feel like you're stuck. So be sure to hit the subscribe button, like, comment, tell me what you think of this video, if you are experiencing any of these same things, if you can relate to what I shared with you about not being emotionally regulated. I'd love to hear. So thanks so much for tuning in. I'll catch you on the next video.